What's up, everybody? My name is Jason, and welcome to Small Biz. In today's video, we're going to talk about how MULN just popped their cherry and sold 22 vehicles by way of Randy Marion. And after seeing the stock jump 15% to 129, only to give it all the way back last trade 11.11. So the obvious question is, are we ever going to gain any traction? And if not, exactly where do I think the stock is going to go? And am I about to double or even triple down on what I said yesterday about MCOM? All that and more coming right up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please do me a favor. Little housekeeping. Share, like this video. Make sure to comment below. It'll be the last one I do until after the 4th of July break. We're going to see volumes drop off a cliff. It's going to be very, very quiet until Wednesday or Thursday of next week. So once again, do us all a huge favor. I'm going to share a lot of information. Like it, share it, and comment below. All right, here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start off by saying there is some light at the end of the tunnel for MULN, but there may be even more with respect to MCOM, because we learned this morning that Sal is shutting down after his trip over to Europe, probably why he's been so quiet over the last 7 or 8 days. He's shutting down HellBiz Live, their streaming service. And in the process, it's going to save 14 million euros. So what does that mean? Well, it means that we have a 15 to 20% reduction in workforce. We have a exiting of non-profitable cities. And now we have a shutting down of the streaming service that's going to save 14 million euros a year. So what does that mean, Sal? And the MCOM shareholders like myself, I own it at 82, MULN at 113. It's a prime candidate right now for a takeover. And if you watched my most popular video of the last 6 months, thank you very much, yesterday, I was saying at 11 cents and small change, even though I'm tapped out and I'm not buying anymore, I'm for sale on both stocks at 65 cents a share. I can see how, and I'm going to explain exactly why that is today, MULN not only can, but should step in, especially now, and take over MCOM. Why do I say that? And I'll get to, as I just mentioned at the open, how come we keep giving up the gains? Here's a little hint. It has something to do with massive dilution in insider selling and a market cap that you're not going to believe. So first of all, if you go to MULN's website, you'll see MULN Commercial, MULN Energy, the MULN 5, etc. There's 3 or 4 silos of revenue. David, if you're listening to me, you should have a half a dozen. You should acquire MULN, and maybe that's why the stock's moving right now. Last trade, 1260. I said if we can close above 12.5 on MCOM, we got something cooking. So maybe it is him or somebody else stepping in. Maybe a Lime, which is almost 35 times the size of MCOM. Yeah. 466 million in revenue, li.me, BRDS, and I'm going to talk about both of those in my next video, Wednesday or Thursday of next week, is doing well over 100 million. So MCOM, with all due respect to the hardworking folks that are there, and it includes Sal, it's a grain of sand on the beach, which is exactly why I think MULN should step in right now after the merger with YAYO. YAYO. You can see more about them on the web at evmo.com. They're a $15 million fleet management company, merging with an approximately $15 million e-bike and scooter company. And let's not forget the Dixie Dixie Cup hats you can get at micromobility.com. But the size of the company is going to double. And Sal has done 3 things. He shrunk the workforce. He got out of cities that are not profitable. And now he's going to save you and the shareholders, which is going to help book value and resale value and all that good stuff, 14 million euros a year. So David, I know you're listening to me and you're not a fan of some of the things I say to that tough fucking shit, because as I shared on Twitter, follow me at Try Small Biz this morning, 18 months ago, get your arms around this, 18 months ago, there was approximately 23.5 million shares of MULN outstanding. The stock split adjusted at the time, $330 a share. Since that moment, we issued upwards of 5 billion shares before the split a few months ago. And according to multiple sources, and you can see some of this, if not all of it, in the 8K filing, we have approximately 3 billion shares outstanding now. So if you're sitting there wondering, how can you go from 330 to a dime? How can you sell a vehicle, 22 exact, for the first time ever, and watch a 15% profit disappear in less than 20 minutes? Answer: the entire amount of shares outstanding has been jacked up almost 8 billion in the last 18 to 24 months. When you combine that with the fact that 3 major insiders are trying to sell 2.144 billion shares, and I would like to say, before I go any further, can you please clarify, are they out? Because if they are out, great. But now you know why we can't get out of our own way. There's way too much supply hitting the street. If they're not out, David, please have them clarify how much they've sold as of the end of this quarter, for example. And do they plan on not selling anymore? Because if you honor your word, David, and tomorrow is the last day of, quote, dilution for the rest of this year, meaning no more dilution, no more new financing for the next 6 months. If we can get that in conjunction with the insiders who either say we're out and maybe explain why you're selling the fucking stock at all-time lows, or we sold X number of shares and we have no intention of getting rid of any more. Why? Because we finally sold some vehicles. Yeah, it's only $308,000, big fucking deal. But it looks like maybe the 279, and it's a big maybe, $1 million backlog, most of it with Marion, which is where the vehicles went through, it could be real. So if it is real, why can't we rally? Again, you've got 643 million in the float. That's 3 times where we were 3 months ago when we did the reverse split. You now also have 2.144 billion shares hitting the market, or at least threatening to hit the market right now. So that only emboldens the short sellers, who I'm certain know exactly what the insiders are doing. They're paying attention to what's going on with the market makers, etc. So that's why we can't get out of our own way. So I stand by what I said yesterday. There is a 50% chance we're going between a nickel and a dime on MULN. On the other hand, I would say there's much less than a 50% chance that MCOM is going to break its 11-cent low, where you could have bought the stock last night and even in the pre-market this morning, because they're much leaner, they're much meaner. And David, you need to acquire MCOM and 2 or 3 other options I'll give you in my next video, because it's a low risk opportunity. If you go after a Canoe or a Workhorse, or a, Lordstown, which is ticker symbol RIDE. They're all rumored to be either filing Chapter 11, which Ride did this week, or on the brink. I don't see why you want to get in the boat, i.e. the Titanic, with very similar brands and or models, and not be able to diversify your risk, versus if you buy a MCOM, which is going to have a fleet component by July the 7th if they honor the LOI, or a Lime, which is doing $466 million a year in revenue, or a BRDS, which may be more able to be swallowed in terms of market cap. You could go from 0 to a minimum of 30 to 35 million with the MCOM takeover. And again, I wouldn't chase it, but it might be why it's moving right now. Or go after a BRDS or a LIME. I asked last night on Twitter, how many shares are outstanding? Most of us agree around 3 billion. And someone sent me the fine print of the last filing that basically says, if they're going to do a reverse split in August or September, and there's a vote August 3rd, they got to be compliant by September 7th. So the odds are 80%, if not higher, and the stock unable to rally is telling you that we got a reverse split. If that's true, follow me here, ladies and gentlemen. We have 3 billion outstanding. We would be legally able to go up to what? 5 billion shares, which means there's 2 billion shares available for acquisition. So David he may be sitting there going, okay, I just sold my first vehicles. That revenue, by the way, is going to be booked before the quarter ends tomorrow, which is great. They popped the cherry. They should celebrate the fact that we finally got some wins on the board. But now we have to deal with When is production going to take off? Is it end of the year or is it going to be the third quarter? And how can we diversify our risk and go from 0 to 30 million or maybe even 100 plus with acquisitions that, again, are either in the micro mobility space or, even more dangerous in my opinion, another EV player? Because again, if we had MULN Commercial, the MULN 5, MULN Energy, MULN Fleet by way of YAYO. And no, I don't think that competes directly with Randy Marion. And why in the world would you want to have all your eggs in one basket? I don't think you would. So I want to see a MULN Fleet and a MULN Micro Mobility. So you've got three divisions. You've got fleet management. You've got micro mobility by way of Hellbiz and Wheels and maybe BRDS and or Lime, if you can really swallow that. And of course, the MULN 5 and the commercial vans and trucks. Because again, as I just said, we may have 2 billion shares. So David may come out, as he already has said, we're done diluting. Okay, fair enough. But I've got 2 billion shares that I can issue between now and the reverse split in the fall. So you've got 2 billion shares at 11.11 right now. That's, let's call it $235 million. They have an equal amount of cash. So if you put the two together, there's close to $500 million of acquisition buying power right now for MULN in stock, 2 billion shares that may be available. And if you guys think I'm wrong, I want to see some proof. And then the $235 million in cash. So as I will discuss at length in the next video, they could use stock and or cash, equal amounts in each bucket, to buy upwards of $500 million in terms of acquisition and market cap. And if they roll them all up, MCOM, which includes Hellbiz and Wheels, YAYO, which is fleet management, and or Lime and BRDS, right there, you've got $250 million in revenue. And if they only use stock, and that may be why it can't get out of its own way, they may have an agreement. It's starting to fade right now. MULN last trade 10.89. They may already have 2 or 3 acquisitions on the hook. They may have told them that we're going to use stock. We can go up to 5 billion shares. That's why somebody knows it shouldn't be moving off 11 cents right now, should it? But if they can do it right, whether it's another EV player or my preference, diversify out of strictly EV. You want fleet, you want micro mobility, and you want what you've already got cooking right now, which apparently has a $279 million backlog with respect to Marion. Because if we can do that, even if we exhaust the 5 billion shares and we have to go through a 1 for 50 reverse split in the fall and they stop diluting the hell out of the stock, and that's a big fucking if, yes, I do think that we can rally from that point forward. But if you're asking me right now, should I be buying the stock at 10.81? The answer is no. You need to get it through your head in closing, ladies and gentlemen, that it is as good, if not better, when you're down big in a stock, 80, 90%. Let someone else push it higher. Let someone else throw good money after bad. If it turns out to bottom and it runs, which I don't think it's going to do, up and through all that resistance at 30 cents and beyond, great. You've got a much smaller loss. If you cut it in half, it's just like me feeding you 3 or 4 winners of 50%, if not more. But if it does fade into the abyss, and the same stock that was $3.30 2 years ago goes down again, once again to a nickel, then you wouldn't have lost any more money. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, always remember that I love you and thank you so much for watching. By the way, have a very happy and safe 4th of July weekend, and God bless the men and women who serve this country.